What's up, YouTube? So, in today's topic, I'm going to talk about the reasons why I really feel like we do not have free will in this life. Why everything is pre-planned, even when it comes to like abusive and fucked up situations in life, right? So, let's get to it. And it's all going to correlate to the human body and towards the human nervous system as well, because this shit plays a key role within our lack of free will and within like shit that happens to us that caught us off guard or like that's out of our control. This is how the human experience is set up. This is why like we have like a nervous system, and why like it's easy for the human being to develop a lot of trauma and how the brain operates based on their upbringing and the people they're around with forcefully, and how the system ties in, because you can't really like have true freedom or get out of your situation because of like money restrictions, or because of like you have to pretty much sacrifice all of your time just to make certain money, and even then it's not a guarantee in order for yourself to get out of your situation. Because let's say, for example, let's say you're born into a very dysfunctional abusive family, right? And like in my case, when I was put into that situation, I couldn't get out of that situation because I didn't have enough finances to get out of my situation. And I was like 22, 23, still stuck in my family's household, and I couldn't do it. I was working, but I wasn't making enough income to where like I couldn't even buy my own car. I couldn't even afford a house. You know what I'm saying? So I couldn't get out of my I couldn't get out of my situation, and I was forced to be around these dumbass people, right? And a lot of people experience this shit. Well, that's at a small scale, but this shit happens at such a large scale. And you see this shit play out collectively, where like people are forced to work at these bullshit jobs. They don't want to be in there. They always bitch, complain about it, and they don't like the people they're around with because of money. Because they're forced to do that shit because of money. You can't have your own place. You can't travel around the world. You can't do the things you want to do because of money. So they're forced to compromise and pretty much sell their souls, metaphorically, just so they could survive. So this is why, like I said, we're not living life, we're surviving. And that creates a lot of drama, chaos, and problems within people. And this shit ties in with all the toxicity that plays into this corrupt, restricted world, due for like the foods we eat, through like all the chemicals, the chemtrails and shit like that, like all the chemicals we put into our bodies. But the main thing, in my opinion, is food. This is why, like, wherever you go, at least in America, there's so much like snacks and junk food all over the place. And once you eat it, it's addicting to get. So this is why like I've noticed by myself, I'm not really hungry, because whenever like I'm having stomach pains or like my stomach growls, I'm craving sugary, like candy or like junk food or like fast food. But I never crave fruits and vegetables or like healthy shit like that. You know what I'm saying? But instead, I'm always craving fast food or snacks or like on the go, quick to eat meals that isn't good for me, as in high sodium and shit like that, and high sugar. Or when it comes to drinks, I crave like Gatorade or just other like sugary drinks that aren't good for me, like juices and stuff like that. Instead, I don't crave water like that. So food ties in to this toxicity of this world, because this world keeps you restricted, and since we're not living life, we're surviving. It's gonna force us to be in a lot of stress, and when we're in a lot of stress, that means as human beings, we need something that's gonna relieve us off our stress. So what happens if you live in a world where like wherever you go, there's nothing but toxic foods? But not only that, but then you got to pay for these toxic foods. But all these toxic foods are extremely fucking cheap. Yeah, it's so expensive to get organic foods. But regardless, even if it is at the same price, all the junk foods and stuff that is bad for you, that still outweighs the amount of healthy foods that are out there. You go to an average store, everywhere you go, you see all these like GMO meats, these microwave foods, these candies, and all this other shit, and these snacks on the go. This is why when you're at a local store, like at Walmart or Target, when you're in a checkout line, what's in front of you in that checkout line? Fucking candy bars, fucking snacks and shit like that. I'm not saying you can eat it once every fucking year or month, but what I'm saying is that like it's so easy to fall into these bad habits, and it may seem small, but that shit develops into other things. So if you can't control your diet, then more than likely it's going to cause you to have less control over other things that are important within your life that's going to help improve you. So living in this world, it keeps you in a box, and it's so easy to stay in that box if you don't have self-control. You got to put in much effort, and not only that, but then in our houses, we're constantly in our houses 24/7 because we don't have enough money to buy a vehicle, because in order for you to get a vehicle, you need to make money. In order for you to make money, you need to work at a bullshit job. You know what I'm saying? That takes a lot of time. Even then, it's not a guarantee to get a vehicle. But it's necessary to have a vehicle because you need a vehicle to travel around the world, to like explore and expand your horizons so you can get outside a lot more. Whereas if you don't have a vehicle, it's going to be hard for you to kind of get out of your situation. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Even one of the people I know, he told me like life doesn't start until you have a vehicle. I get what he's saying. Like he's actually right. Because how you supposed to expand your horizons with that? You know, I'm 26. This is my first year having a vehicle, and you know, it makes shit a lot easier and less of a fucking hassle. But it's sad how like the type of world we live in. Like we just got to do so much just to like, we just got to do so much just to get the things we want out of life. You know. And it's not in a good way. We're like, oh, it's all about perseverance, hard work, and determination. No, it's more so you got to go through a lot of bullshit and a lot of unnecessary shit, and you're pretty much wasting your soul's, your spirit time. It's about working at shit you have no business being in, just so you can make fucking slave money, just so you can get by in this human experience. This is why, like, there are times where I'm living life and shit like that, and like I'm thinking to myself, damn, my spirit or my soul is wasting its time doing all this bullshit. Like I could be doing better shit in other fucking realms or in different timelines or in other lifetimes. But yeah, I'm stuck in this fucking timeline working at these shitty jobs and just being around just people who are influenced by like toxicity, by their addictions and shit like that. You know what I'm saying? And this is where you get your programming from. This is why people talk about like a lot of people are so programmed, or like a lot of people operate in similar ways. It's because of all the addictions with these foods and how the world is, how social media is. So there's so much programming in this shit. So imagine dealing with all this shit. This is why it's always important to come across spiritual information. But at the same time, use your discernment, use what best fits for you, what resonates, what doesn't resonate. But also follow your intuition. The more healthier you get, like the more you work out, the more you eat healthy, the more you fast, the more you meditate, the more you doing the shadow work and healing. Because regardless, human experience can cause a lot of trauma and pain. Is how the human body ties into this fucking world in the first place. But the more you do that shit, then the more you're gonna be tapped into your intuition, and the more you're gonna know how to move within this lifetime, right? But now I'm gonna talk about people who are on a healing journey, who experience generational curses. I feel like everyone experiences this because I don't know other people's lives like that. But obviously, without a doubt, every human experience some type of trauma. Every human being goes through some type of healing journey. Everyone does that. But I'm just talking about people like who I feel drawn to, and I know there's a pattern within us. So we all, like, for example, me and in my tribe, right? Like I've different tribes that I resonate with, right? So me and a couple of guys, right? So like me and a couple of people I met, because it's guys and females, but like we'll be born into a very abusive, toxic, dysfunctional family, right? And it's so hard, and like within, and since we're born into that, they've created a lot of trauma and a lot of self-limiting beliefs within us, and it really caused our psyche and our brain to dumb us down and shit like that. So we develop a lot of trauma and crazy shit, right? And you don't have to be born in a dysfunctional family to experience that shit. You could be put into a fucking school system or this world in general, because everything is restricted and there's a lot of programming and toxicity in the atmosphere, right? So automatically you're gonna be forced installed within you're going to develop a lot of trauma at a young age, because the human body is so vulnerable. The human body, it's so fragile. That's why it's easy for the human body to develop a lot of trauma, because we have a nervous system, all this other shit. And you see how that plays into our lack of free will from a spiritual perspective, because like it's a lot to explain. It's a lot to explain, man. I'm just gonna explain it in simpler terms. I'm not saying I'm right, but this is how I observe things based on my research, learning, and studying, you know, about spirituality, about generational curses and other people's lives and my lives and shit, you know. So I'm gonna explain this in the most simple way, you know, because I know I'm all over the place. So I'm gonna use a minor example. Let's say you, for example, you're born into a toxic, dysfunctional family, right? And they installed a lot of traumatic trauma, pain, and programming of your mind, right? And since they're constantly mistreating you and treating you like shit, and they're abusing you mentally, physically, then obviously it's gonna cause your psyche, your human mind, to create a lot of abusive beliefs within yourself, right? So by the time you get out of your situation, by default, you're going to attract more bullshit situations within your life. You're dealing with narcissistic people. You don't know how to use your discernment, because let's be real, a lot of people are fucking broken. And so we imagine living in a world where this world is broken. So of course there's gonna be a lot of broken people within this fucking world, right? So it makes sense that after a dysfunctional family, you get out of their situation, by default, you're going to come across a narcissistic, broken, a weak ass human being, right? And they're gonna manipulate you or do some shit towards you to get their way. Whether they'll steal a lot of money, they'll steal your energy, they'll talk down on you, they'll bully you, they'll pick on you, they'll abuse you, or they'll physically or verbally harm you within romantic relationships, within friendships, or within like within work situations. It could be any of that shit, because they do that shit towards other people. But if someone were to be born into a loving family, they could detect that shit and get away from it and set boundaries. Whereas if someone who's lacking love their entire life, they're gonna seek that validation from anyone, not because they're dumb, no, because they don't know any better. That's all they know, and it's not their fault, because since we have a human body, the human body is so vulnerable and fragile. It has a nervous system, it has a fucking brain and shit like that, so it has nerves and shit. So it's easy for the human body to develop a lot of trauma, especially at a young age. This is why it's scientifically proven that kids ages from 3 to 7, around that age, it's so easy for them to develop a lot of programming around that age, you know? This is why parents are so cautious in these days when they're raising kids. This is why you see shit on social media where like you see pranks, like where people are pulling pranks on kids and shit, like scary pranks during Halloween or it's in shit like that. And then you always see the comment section and you see people are like, hey, don't do that, you're gonna traumatize a kid, or like people like to claim they're being sensitive, but in reality they just have the self-awareness now that like how you treat kids at a young age is going to affect them as they get older, because more people are becoming more aware of narcissistic abuse and all these traumatic experiences, you know. And shout out to New My Frame, because I feel like, in my opinion, and obviously other YouTubers as well, but like New My Frame, she kind of set the tone when it comes to like a narcissistic abuse, trauma. Like I feel like she's one of the first ones, and a couple other people who kind of started that, and now a lot of people are becoming more aware of that shit. There's why people overuse, and even myself, we all overuse the word narcissist, right? But yeah, but it's just crazy. So where was I getting at? So this is where I'm getting at. You're born into a dysfunctional family, and now you're attracting a lot of broken people who like to use and abuse you. And now once you hit rock bottom, it's like, and now you come across spiritual information, you're knowing more about yourself, and now you gotta do all that healing work, and it takes so much time, because the human body is so fucking weak. So this is why people gotta go. This is why you gotta go to therapy. You gotta do a lot of fasting, yoga, different types of therapy, and shit like that. You know, you gotta do so much just to heal the human body and to get in touch with your inner child, so you could be on your purpose or be on your mission. But isn't I honestly be on your mission, on your purpose, but most so because, in my opinion, if you're being abused and experience fucked up situations, that's part of your mission. That's part of your fucking plan. That's my opinion. You don't have to agree with what I'm saying, but that's how I view things, based on my own experiences and how I view and observe situations. But this is where it ties into spirituality, because from a spiritual perspective, I feel like we don't have free will, because when we experience fucked up situations, at least for myself, I personally do feel like, one, it's spiritual warfare, because you have, and I got these from other people, but I personally believe in what they're saying. So you got spiritual warfare. So the more important your life mission is, or if you're meant to do great things, yeah, you're going to, it's not even that, but like, yeah, it is that, but like, this is being a human in general, because don't forget, we live in a third realm. This realm is shit. So naturally, it's going to attract a lot of demonic spirits and entities. It's so easy for them to be stuck in this realm. This is why everything is so restricted when it comes to finances and all this other shit. We're not living life, we're just surviving. This is why the earth is constantly being destroyed 24/7. But what I'm getting at is like, it's easy for people to experience a lot of spiritual warfare within demonic entities and other spirits that like to harm people, or they like to manipulate other people's minds, or they like to inhabit other people's minds to attack people who are trying to do great things in life. You know, that's why people commit suicides, and there's a lot of abuse going on and shit like that. So not only I believe spiritual warfare ties in, but I also believe karma ties in as well, because it's hard to explain when it comes to karma. It's one of those things. Well, it is explainable, but it's a lot to explain. I don't think I have the energy to explain all this shit. When you're experiencing karma, the best way I could pinpoint it is like when you keep attracting the same situations that isn't working in your fucking favor. And no matter how many situations you're trying to get out of it, you're still gonna be stuck into that fucking cycle. This is where you get your karma from. The reason why it's easy for me to tell when I'm experiencing karma is when I book a lot of personal tarot readings and I watch certain spiritual videos that confirms that I'm experiencing possibly karma. The best way I could explain it is when you're experiencing an obstacle through people, through situations in life, and you can't get out of that situation, but it keeps being thrown at you. No matter how many times you try to get out of that situation, you keep attracting that shit, or it's being forced into your life no matter what. So it seems like you're lacking free will. And no matter how many times you try to get out of that situation, it's hard for you to get away from that shit. So I use examples. Let's say you meet the same stupid ass fucking female within romantic relationships. They're all emotionally closed off. They're all stuck up. They lack communication skills. They're all just fucking bitches, right? Excuse my language. And you keep meeting these same fucking females, right? And it's like, what the fuck am I doing? I'm becoming more aware. I'm doing the healing work. Why do I keep attracting the same fucking person, right? And that's stuck in a karmic cycle. So that means you need to learn more lessons, and you need to like actually grasp the lessons, and you need to do more healing work so you won't attract the same fucking person. You know what I'm saying? But by default, you could attract these unfortunate situations because, again, it's the nature of this human experience. There's a lot of broken people. But I think that was a bad example. But this shit plays out in very complex ways. Like, it could be at a work situation, or it could be dealing with narcissistic people or abusive people who lack empathy, who don't take you into consideration. Your connections are always one-sided, and they don't they're lacking in morals, and they're lacking emotional intelligence, and you two are the complete opposites, but yet you two are drawn to each other. But the only reason why you two are drawn to each other is because of a fucking trauma bond. And once you get out of that situation, you experience more people like that because you're stuck in a karmic situation until you fully grasp the lesson and you do the healing work, so you can recognize people like that and you get away from that shit. There's why, like I explained in this video, if you're born around dysfunctional family members, then you install a lot of trauma within you, and once you get into the real world, you don't know any better, so you're gonna be more susceptible to being used and abused by evil people and shit like that. Whereas if you're born into a loving family, it'd be easier for you to spot and detect the bullshit from people. But some people, regardless, they're still gonna be victims to shit like that because the world is naturally evil and dark. But this shit can also play into money situations. Like, no matter how much money you're making, or no matter how much opportunities you're getting, you're just losing money like that, where the people are stealing money from you, or like the purchases you're making, or you're just lacking finances. This is where you get your generational curses from, especially. Generational curses can play out in a lot of ways. It can be like finances, money, but it's bullshit. But this is what I'm getting at from a spiritual perspective. I also personally believe, you don't have to agree with what I agree in, but it's how I observe things. I believe there are certain people, certain souls who are meant to experience all these situations that I mentioned forcefully, whether they're meant to overcome these situations. So once they get to the other side, they can help other people through their wisdom and knowledge, so they can wake people the fuck up, because they're put into a fucked up timeline where all this shit was going on for fucking thousands of years, right? Which, in my opinion, if that was the case, then you're pretty much wasting your time as a spirit, because you're pretty much put here to be used and abused, and to waste your time in this fucking timeline being a slave just so you can survive. So you're not really experiencing life. You're not living life in this timeline. You're just trying to survive and trying to help other people. In that case, that's not really experiencing and evolving, in my opinion. Because as a spirit, as a soul, in my opinion, I don't know how the afterlife works, but you're automatically all-knowing and you have all this information. But yet once you're born into a human fucking body, is like, it seems like the universe or God, they'll erase all of your past life memories, and they're going to force you to be put into situations where you're lacking knowledge based on your family members, how they're raising you, because you're forced to be around them, and the people around you growing up. So this is why people don't remember their fucking past lives and shit like that. That's why I feel like the human experience is a waste of fucking time. It's fucking dumb, man. But this is why I say take life seriously, but don't take life personally, because all this is bullshit. But take it seriously so you can attract and experience great things, you know? He's got to do the best he can and use he's got to use what you have. What else I'm gonna talk about, man? Because there are times in my life where, like, I gotta do so much healing work and shit like that. No matter how much times I'm doing healing work, I'm always getting triggered. Whether it be my nervous system, my mental health, or just the people I'm around with. And that's when I realized, yeah, I'm probably experiencing karmic cycles, or I have a lot of karma in this lifetime, or maybe God or my spirit forcefully wanted me to experience all this shit on purpose. So once I overcome it, I can help other people, maybe. Or maybe, like I said, maybe it's just my karma, or just the nature of this human experience, or maybe it's spiritual warfare, or maybe I'm just meant to learn lessons, you know? This bum-ass human experience where you're meant to go through dumb-ass shit, like being a slave, just so you can survive and shit. Fucking retarded, man. Cause I feel like in other realms and other timelines, there's better lives out there. Like there's better timelines compared to this timeline. Obviously, we could be put in worse situations, but what I'm saying is, like, without a doubt, there are better, more stable, better timelines that are actually on our level and shit like that, where we don't have to experience corruption and restrictions and all this ignorance and manipulation, you know, and less toxicity within everything, you know. That's why it's important to learn this is why it's always important to follow your intuition, you know, so you can know how to move through life. Spirituality is very important, but don't get caught up, because our people or narcissistic, who having a bad agenda, and they like to trick people, or like they like to feed off of people's energy by giving people false information and false hope within the spiritual community. So you gotta be really careful, and a lot of people are like that. Oh man, fuck. I want to mention more stuff, but you know, I don't know, man. I don't want to hold this one for too long. Get some air. Get some air on. The reason why a lot of people project and a lot of people like to lie to other people and to abuse other people and to take shit from people and to like cause harm to people is because they themselves are also traumatized and they're hurt and they lack low self-esteem. They have a fragile ego. This is where you get your narcissist from. And they do that shit towards other people, and it's a constant cycle.